we think we're competitive, and I think that the crucial part of that competitiveness is looking at the life cycle of systems. So the SMEs have developed the system. They've got the understanding and the intellectual property within those systems, and they can support those systems so that and you'll find that many of the systems that might have been developed in Australia, when you look at the cost of sending that repair or maintenance or upgrade and having it done in Australia, will lift first of all the capability of the system, but secondly reduce the costs. So there aren't the costs of sending the system back to its home base, and the delay that brings, and there's an on-tap understanding. So that gives the SMEs an advantage, and also because, as I've just said before, they tend to have a lot more innovative products. Because we're more agile, we have the capability to produce systems and products with a faster turnaround time, and we've shown that in quite a few instances for Australia. The way that the Australian industry supported the troops in Afghanistan and Iraq and provided innovations to overcome problems was really quite incredible, and certainly couldn't have been matched by any of the larger companies. But we also have the advantage, if we're supporting systems, overseas systems which are actually imported into Australia, if the Australian companies can again offer that advantage of time and cost in terms of supporting it, providing they get the technology transfer to help start them up. I think it's too early to make an understanding of what our response is or how they're reacting to it. I can say that the response has been very positive to the new export strategy, and the key part of it, as far as the SMEs are concerned, is that it promises to put in a lot more resources into the export support, both in Australia and out of Australia, and those resources have been lacking in the past. The resources and coordination have been lacking in the past, so our members are very receptive to this, and they believe that it will help them work. But in terms of actually reacting to it and doing things, it hasn't started yet. So there's been nothing to react to other than the policy. Well, first of all, let's look at where we think manufacturing is going in Australia, and the latest stats indicate that manufacturing is a bit on an uptrend. The volume, this is looking across manufacturing all in Australia, so there is an increase. And drilling down on that, there's an increase in the advanced manufacturing sector, and that is the sector where we can we can really help, because we've got companies that can produce advanced technology, and a good example of that is the company CEA Technologies. It has produced probably the world's best advanced active array radar or active array phased system, and which is world leading, but it's competitive in price. It's much cheaper than the price offered by competitors around the world. That's an example of what we can do if we're given the opportunity. And you also see that in the people who are doing the smaller, providing the subsystems. So there are companies within Australia who are producing advanced subsystems, including electronic computer boards, and in fact there's probably the only electronic computer board in Australia manufacturer is basing itself on defence, and it's because they can work with the potential customers to develop systems. They've got the know-how to develop the systems that the customers want, and that often ends up with it being cheaper. There's some of that contribution, but that 180-degree turnaround that I talked about before has only been a reasonably recent announcement and strategy. So I think that that potential to support the Australian Defence Forces will grow enormously. And it's because we've got the capability, because we've got the desire to serve and produce the best systems for the Defence Forces, that our potential contribution will grow significantly. We're already in niche areas making enormous contribution to that capability. And you could name, I quote again the example of CEA Technologies, the capability that company's been able to deliver to the Australian Navy is enormous, and it's much appreciated by the Australian Navy. But you can take that right down to some of the innovations that we've made in the the uniforms of the Army in Afghanistan, where we're now providing uniforms which are a percentage of weight of the previous ones that they carried, which makes the ability of the soldier to fight so much better. And now a lot of the advanced capability that we've had in Australia has been employed going into what you might call the global supply chain. And the great example is the JSF. It was announced recently that we've just sold $1 billion worth of systems into the JSF program. That's an enormous contribution, admittedly, and that's the potential advance in capability to Australia is the delivery of those jet fighters to the Australian Air Force. But some of the companies that have been great in that have been Moran, who've designed and developed and manufactured a number of the key components of the wing system, and Quickstep also involved in those sort of things. They've developed manufacturing techniques and the use of composite materials to advance the manufacture of some of those planes. I go back to, I think the crucial issue is ensuring that we're performed to deliver to the greater requirements, the greater expectations of the Australian Defence Forces, and our members are placed in a position where they can do that, and the Defence Forces get what they need. So it's, in terms of AIDN, it's to try and become more professional and nationally oriented ourselves to ensure that we've got that spread to be able to help our members deliver. And that brings opportunities. The more we succeed, the more we show that we can deliver to expectations, then the better our opportunities are likely to be both in Australia and overseas.